Who's on the line? Really? He knows he's not working today, right?
He knows he's not working.
They don't trust you even a little bit.
Paulie, is this a trust thing when it comes to you?
Did I call in? No. Well, you said I'm not working today. I've been listening for a while. It doesn't seem like you've been working today, Mannix.
I strongly disagree. Strongly.
No, it's great. I was listening a little bit and watching. How's everything going?
Well, just hanging out here.
He's checking
having
up
some
on
laughs, having a good time.
Yeah, how's the hair?
Hair's looking pretty good today. It was a late night, but I mean the hair is still there, which is always big, as you know.
So now, if you look at this last year, I was thinking about this already with the BCS and now the Final Four. If the BCS were still in place, would the final two have been Alabama, Florida State? Because I think it would have.
Yeah.
If we had the old BCS style, the final game of the year, the national title game last year this time, I think, with the same scenario, would have been probably Florida State, because undefeated usually holds serve with the old BCS system, and Alabama would have probably been the 2 seed or flip-flopped. And can you imagine that? We have the exact opposite.
I have to wonder, though, Paulie, if the computers would have put Florida State at number 2, because that's a big part of the BCS system, obviously. And the strength of schedule for Florida State, their how much they won these games by, it wasn't impressive. I mean, I have to wonder if one of these other SEC schools would have eclipsed them in that type of system.
I actually think it would have been the opposite. I think Florida State in the old system would have held serve as the number 1 team in the country, defending national champs, undefeated, haven't lost in like a decade, it seemed like. And I think even though their wins at some points weren't impressive by the first half, the people in that room, Condoleezza Rice and, not Archie Manning anymore, but Barry Alvarez, all those people, I think really dissected the first half of those Florida State games and put them in the 4th spot. And I think if this was the old system, Florida State would have been 1 or 2.
How much do you think that the College Football Playoff Committee was ecstatic? How ecstatic were they that Ohio State won? Because if Ohio State had gotten blown up by Alabama after TCU smacks around Ole Miss, the outrage would have been enormous.
Right, you're 100% right. They would have said, why would you put an Ohio State team with a third-string quarterback who would barely beat Penn State and hadn't had a beautiful season?
Yeah.
On paper the season looked good, but off paper it just looked good. I mean, Ohio State's been very good the past few years. They don't have very many regular season losses, but due to off-field circumstances, they haven't been there. And I think Ohio State showed that they have a lot of talent, and they're not the Big Ten. They are a member of the Big Ten. But if you say the Big Ten is down, that's fine, but Ohio State isn't.
Paulie, last time I was hosting the show, guest hosting, I think the poll question was, what's the bigger king, NFL or college football? So I'm going, and I lost that poll, by the way. So I'm going to switch it over to the NFL Wild Card Weekend. And our poll question today is, who's it a bigger game for, Andy Dalton or Tony Romo?
Oh, man. I think as much as you'd like to say it's Andy Dalton, he's what, 26 years old, 27 years old? He's got a long time. Romo, I think you guys would agree, he's in his best position to win that he may be ever in his career. This team has overachieved, but they looked like they were going to dip a little bit towards the end of the season. Like they might not be as good as we thought they were, but then you got a 2,000-yard rusher, a great wide receiver. Jason Witten is still underrated all these years later, and Romo is throwing less passes but higher completions. This guy, if he finishes his career without a title in Dallas, it's going to feel like a movie you didn't see the end of. He's been a good guy. He hasn't been a troublemaker, and I think there's a little bit of sentiment rooting for Tony Romo, because I wouldn't want to be the Dallas Cowboys quarterback who didn't get a title. That would be a tough one to have that around your neck. What do you guys think on that? I'm
just wondering if you have anything better to do today.
I wish I did, Mannix. I'm ready to go. I want to, the show. All this good football last night. I was like, ready to go. Let's get it going.
You're just frothing to get back into the studio, aren't you?
I know. We should have been on. We should have been going today. I don't know what we were thinking. But no, it was a great night last night. Florida State, though, it looked like Florida State reminded me of every game they played this season where they left points on the table in the first half and they go into halftime down 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 points, and then they just unleash in the second half, and it just never happened. And it shows the level opponent. Oregon's not going to turn it off. When they had that big lead, they stepped it up and kept the no-huddle working, which was really smart.
Yeah, and I think the national championship game is going to be a great one because they're both high-scoring teams. These are top 5 offenses in college football. And I obviously think it's a good call to put Oregon as a big favorite. They earned that right over the course of the season. But everything I saw from Ohio State, people talk about Ohio State and how they are just exponentially better than what they were in the second week of the season. That team that lost to Virginia Tech, you don't even know where that team is anymore. This team is just so much different from that team. And Urban Meyer, I think he was on your show recently, where I thought he made a great point where he said, we had freshmen and sophomores. We had a young offensive line. that has come together in an incredible way and made that team that lost to Virginia Tech non-existent. I mean, that is not the same team that Ohio State is right now.
Here's my question for you. Which would you rather have a mic'd-up conversation and heard it live on the air yesterday? Would it rather be Jameis Winston and Jimbo Fisher at the sidelines when everything was going haywire after the fumble, or post-game, the first conversation between Nick Saban and Lane Kiffin?
I've heard Jimbo.
How do you come up with this stuff?
I've heard Jimbo and Jameis talk before, and if you can read lips, you know pretty much everything that Jimbo's saying. So I would go with Nick Saban and Lane Kiffin because Lane needs this job, Paulie. He needs that job. He's got to have one more good year.
My kids were watching the game, and they saw some of the things Jimbo was saying, and they were appalled.
Yeah. That was not made for TV.
What do you guys know? What's the one this weekend? It's weird to think that is Carolina a favorite over the Cardinals? That's the weirdest game in the world because it seems like two teams that really shouldn't be there, but they are. And we've seen teams get there and do damage when they get no respect going in.
I like Carolina. They've won 4 straight. They've got the momentum. I think Cam Newton's playing solid football. I mean, a car wreck didn't stop him. He's putting up over 60 yards on average the last 4 games on the ground. So I think Carolina's going to win this one. Defensively, they've looked better. Ryan Lindley, I just can't get behind that.
That's not That's not the most compelling game of the weekend, though. The most compelling game is Cowboys. You got to say it's the Cowboys because if they lose, all this goodwill they've generated over the last couple of weeks, it's gone. It's out. You'll be talking about can Jason Garrett get it done? Should Tony Romo be replaced? Depending on how these guys play, the pendulum could swing wildly to the other side if they lose this game.
All right, last question for you two. If you were producing the Super Bowl, if you own the network, what is NBC has the Super Bowl?
That's right.
If you could pick, would you go Packers, Patriots, or Dallas Patriots as your dream matchup ratings-wise?
Who are you talking to? You're the kid from Boston or the one who works for Comcast Sportsnet Boston?
No, Maddox, you got to take off your Boston hat. Take your Celtic
and his hoodie that he has on.
Well, you said the Patriots are in either scenario, right?
No.
I think so. I think the Patriots have more storylines. Even though Belichick doesn't talk, that's a great storyline. Tom Brady, he's a walking storyline. Gronkowski, all that stuff. I think they're the AFC best storyline. As much as Denver is, we've seen that before. It would be all about Peyton Manning and nobody else. We know exactly what they're going to
So you said Pats, Packers, or what? Or Pats who?
Or Pats, Cowboys for best ratings storyline Super Bowl. What would you pick?
It's got to be the Cowboys.
Cowboys.
It does.
Although I want to see Aaron Rodgers.
I mean, the purist will want to see Aaron Rodgers and the Rodgers-Brady matchup part 2, but the Cowboys, their ratings, they mean ratings. Every time they're on that 4 o'clock game, the numbers are astronomical. They're ridiculous.
I would love to see Tony Romo lose to Tom Brady.
Wow, that's cold-blooded.
Yeah.
It's harsh, man. Well, Paulie, try to get some rest, man. You got to be back on Monday.
What is wrong with you two? Can't you guys take a day off? Mannix, Paulie now, what is the deal? Get some sleep.
I was working late last night. I was watching all the games. I've watched all the bowl games. Central Michigan, loved all the bowl games. I can't get enough.
You know what I've discovered about you guys? You've got some separation anxiety because Perloff was here the other day, and now you're.
I heard he just walked on the set like Kramer.
He did.
He walked in to get free coffee because there's not a Starbucks through less than a block away.
He did.
So basically you're saying Perloff showed up to the show, got some coffee, and did nothing, and then left? That sounds like every other day.
Dipped in, dipped out, bump.
All right, Paulie. Good to talk to you, my friend.
Enjoy the day. I'll see you soon.
Happy New Year.
It's Paul Pabst, executive producer of the Dan Patrick Show, checking in.
Just need to let go, you know?
He's treating this thing like his baby, as he should. It's his child.